The first season of Ahsoka is behind us, and with it, the Kiners have finally made it into live-action Star Wars music with an incredible score for the series. Today, I'll be breaking down the music in the end credits that so many of you have come to love. The music begins with a very simple but very effective perfect fifth in the cello and bass. This interval of a perfect fifth, when played by itself for a harmony, is known as an open fifth, and it creates a very tribal or gruff sound with just the shell of a typical triad. This sound can be heard throughout American music by composers like Aaron Copland, and later found a strong home in rock music as well. Since Ahsoka is essentially a nomad, and much of this show, as we eventually find out, takes place on vast, uncivilized landscapes of untamed lands, it works perfectly to capture the character and setting of the show. The open fifths continue to descend while still maintaining this interval. And this is a rhythm that is reminiscent of the music from the opening crawl, but is also a rhythmic theme that comes back throughout the show. And I've mentioned in other places how it becomes reminiscent of a march rhythm, either for war if it were faster, or a funeral if it were slower. You can hear the same rhythm throughout the famous second movement of Beethoven's 7th Symphony. By Kiner setting it between a faster and slower tempo, we get something that pulls from both worlds. It feels aggressive and yet sad at the same time. A solo violin enters to take up Ahsoka's main theme, while a solo cello accompanies by further filling in the harmonies and offering a counterpoint to the main theme of this show. Next, a full string section enters with Sabine's theme. After hearing these solo instruments that feel very close to us, the strings being softer and mixed with more depth becomes a welcome contrast as the track begins to become less tribal and more orchestral. To serve this new theme, the chords in the basses also subtly change while maintaining the same supportive rhythmic identity. The track then actually moves to a new track within it, and as anyone who has watched the show now likely knows, this is the music that plays as Ahsoka and Huyang ascend in the mouth of the Purgle to find Ezra from Episode 5.
Where Sabine was taken?
I have no idea.
What?
This music, as I spoke about in my Episode 5 breakdown, is magical and triumphant, and slowly builds upwards as the team ascends. Hidden in plain sight throughout is Ahsoka's theme in an augmented form before coming fully into the forefront of the music. This part of the end credits track was clearly just pulled from the Episode 5 soundtrack and spliced into the first part of the track, but it works well here to direct the music back to Ahsoka and function within a larger structure that I'll talk about at the end of this breakdown, while being a contrast to the music from the beginning of the end credits, which was written solely for the purposes of being in the end credits. This could also indicate, though, that there was a time crunch at the end of the production process, and instead of writing a completely new 4-minute track, the Kiners quickly spliced together music from other parts of the show. The music then cuts off and we transition with a solo flute playing Ahsoka's theme. I believe that this is an alto flute being played with a little extra airflow in order to get those high overtones and a more raspy sound reminiscent of the way many indigenous tribes, whether in East Asia or Southern America, would play their own traditional variations of the modern flute. The sound of this alto flute though transitions nicely into the French horns that immediately take up Hera's theme next. The violins enter next with the theme before the trumpets take over and bring it past the climax of the harmony. The horns enter again with transitional harmony before settling further into a cello duet. Elements of Ahsoka's theme begin to return and welcome the flute back with them. The final variation of Ahsoka's theme is played by flute and cello as a heterophonic occurrence, something we often see in the East Asian cultures that Ahsoka was based prominently on. The entire track functions as what we call a medley. This is when a piece functions as a collection of separate melodies that are weaved together as we move from one to the next. Interestingly, while we hear the themes of Ahsoka, Sabine, and Hera, we never hear the themes of the other characters that are with us from the very beginning, like Baylan Skoll, Shin Hati, and Morgan Elsbeth. We also never hear the themes for Thrawn or Ezra. In doing this, the Kiners focus specifically on the heroes, giving us a triumphant and warming track at the very end of every episode by excluding the heavy and angry themes of the villains without spoiling the arrival of Ezra in later episodes. But if we follow the pattern of themes from Ahsoka to Sabine, back to Ahsoka, to Hera, and back to Ahsoka once more, we can actually break this end credit track into a form or structure that we could describe as A, B, A, C, A, where each A section is an occurrence of Ahsoka's theme, and B and C are the other and contrasting themes of Sabine and Hera. In structuring the music in this way, Kiner has created a rondo form for this piece where the A material continues to return in between occurrences of other new material. This same form can be found throughout the music of classical common practice era composers like Mozart and Beethoven, but also continues to be a favorite form for later and contemporary composers as well, since it allows new material to be developed while continuing to also retrace more familiar material. But I'm also curious what all of you think. What did you think of the end credits track? Did you notice the splicing of music from episode 5 after seeing that chapter? And did you notice the structure of the track as well? What was your favorite musical moment from the entire show? Tell me in the comments below what you think, and consider checking out my Patreon page using the link in the description, where you can help support this channel for as little as $1 a month, or download PDFs and MP3s of projects as I complete them, along with other perks at higher tiers. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to learn more about the music of a galaxy far, far away. And as always, may the be with you.